HOA sells a non-HOA house, posted by Catfish21SM. I'll spare you the boring details, but we lived in a small rural farming community that's been growing quite rapidly lately. A lot of the farmers are growing old and selling their farmland. There are two ways to do this. They can either split it into lots and sell a piece at a time, and this typically brings in more money but is a much slower process. Then they can sell the whole thing at once. Again, faster process, less money. This particular farmer decided to sell his land in lots because it was in a developing neighborhood and he could make a much larger profit doing it that way. My friend bought a few lots and built a very nice house on it. Then a large company came in and bought most all of the remaining lots and built a subdivision on the land. In order to keep everything in a consistent look, they themed the properties after my friend's place. His was a lot nicer, obviously. I mean, he didn't cheap out on it like they did, but they had similar styles to his. He didn't mind because that just raised his property value even more. Now, it's important to note that my friend who this is about basically lived right in the center of the subdivision. He bought a place in the middle of the property because of its view. Probably not the best idea in retrospect. So the people who built the subdivision, they also founded an HOA. My friend was invited to join on multiple occasions, but always refused for obvious reasons. Because of some legal clauses about pre-existing properties, he wasn't required to join, even though he was in, well, the center of the subdivision. He did maintain a pretty good relationship with the HOA president and some of the members of the community as well. He was regularly invited to HOA events and sometimes actually took them up on the offer. He enjoyed it. But then, a new president took over the HOA. I guess this new president didn't really do any research because he just assumed that my friend was part of the HOA. He contacted my friend about several violations that he noticed, along with late fees due to the HOA. When my friend tried to explain that he was not part of the HOA, the new president just shooed him off and ignored him. My friend obviously just ignored all of the fees and all the fines and so on. Now, my friend was a winter bird. For anybody who doesn't know what that means, it's a fancy way of saying that someone that lives in the south during the winter and in the north during the summer. They typically own two houses, or sometimes they're just retired and they jump around between family members that are happy to take care of them for that time. My friend in particular was a doctor who worked for a hospital here in the summer months and a hospital in the south in the winter months, so it all worked out. So saying this, you could probably imagine the horror on his face when he came home and found all of his locks changed and another family living in his house. The HOA president knew that he traveled south every year, so he waited until he was gone, then sent an eviction notice for all of his being late, and he had a friend that owned a realty firm and they sold the house and moved in a new family, all while my friend was gone. My friend contacted a lawyer friend of his from back in the south and they started the process of suing the HOA. Big city lawyer versus small town HOA who was absolutely in the wrong. Guess who won? Oh yeah, and did I mention that the family that moved into my friend's house, they joined in as well. They also sued the HOA because they had to be relocated on short notice and they had taken out a very hefty loan for that property. Now, I don't know exactly what happened, but I do know that the HOA president lost his house and he skipped town. I'm guessing he probably took the brunt of the attack. This has got to be the worst one that I've read in a long time because you were suing the HOA president. I mean, look, you do not do that. How does he think he is going to be smart enough? Oh, this person's not going to realize that a whole freaking new family is in his house when he comes back from the winter? This dude's an idiot. Flip straight up, he does not deserve to be the president. Get out of town, man. Way to go, OP. OP's HOA has a problem with the support group meetings being held at their house, with updates posted by I'm Fed Up With My HOA. Nice name. For the last 18 years, I have been a member and an organizer of a support group for trauma survivors. The room that we were using for our meetings in a nearby church was recently flooded and badly damaged, and I haven't been able to find another suitable room for our meetings due to the pandemic. Not wanting the group members to be deprived of an important resource, I decided to host some meetings in my basement or in a secluded area of my garden with a reduced number of attendees. Now, we respect social distancing rules, we wear masks, we sanitize our hands, and everything. So this came to the knowledge of the HOA board. A few weeks ago, some HOA board members knocked on my door and told me that they weren't pleased with this at all. They told me that people in the neighborhood feel unsafe knowing that drug addicts gather at my house. I told them that our support group is not for people fighting addiction, or maybe some of them are, but they don't tell me, but for trauma survivors, and that this would stop as soon as we could go back to the church. They weren't convinced and called me inconsiderate and asked me to stop. I didn't because I consider that I have a right to invite people at my house and talk to them. Yesterday, I received a strongly worded letter from the HOA demanding that I stop inviting drug addicts to gather at my house because it puts everyone in danger, and they're not the kind of people we want in that neighborhood. They said that I had a chance to make things right, but didn't, so they're fining me $500. They will fine me for every meeting I organize from now on and threaten me with a lien on my house if I don't pay the fines. The reason they invoke is that our meetings are breaching the peace of the neighborhood and making people feel unsafe. This is completely untrue. Our meetings are 6 to 7 people, max. We don't make noise. We don't drink. People park on my driveway or on legal spots in the street. We cause absolutely no disturbance. I checked the HOA rules and I cannot seem to find which one I would be breaking. Does the HOA have any right to stop me from organizing meetings at my house? I don't see how our support group is any different from having a few guests at my house. The HOA is run by people who don't seem to know what they're doing, and I think they'd stop harassing me if I had real legal arguments to oppose. Thank you for your advice. Update. I wrote back to the HOA to dispute the fines, and I sent a polite but firm letter asking them to show me precisely which rule that I'm supposed to be breaking, as I was advised by commenters in here. I also pretended that I feel insulted that they're calling me and the group members drug addicts. Look, I felt bad doing so because I know that addiction is a disease and not a sin or whatever, and that I would raise heck because of this and call a lawyer. As a result, the president of the HOA called me and basically confirmed that they haven't found a specific rule that I would be breaking, but it was more of a general feeling that people had, that I was making them uncomfortable, and that should not go on. I asked why they were uncomfortable, so he talked about the fact that they think that I'm letting drug addicts gather at my home and that would bring crime to the neighborhood. I explained, again, that the support group is not about addiction and the members are not drug addicts, and the president said, well, he knew, but some homeowners have trouble accepting it. Now he confirmed, as I suspected, that there are other things they have trouble accepting about me, and it's not about drugs. Then I tried my luck a little by pretending that what they are doing amounts to discrimination against people who need mental health support, and they were infringing on my right to peacefully enjoy my property, and was adamant that I wouldn't pay a cent in fines. He said that I seemed passionate about the argument and he doesn't want to be involved in a legal dispute over this, so we came to an agreement that I would move as many meetings as possible online and only have people at my place when there was no other way, which makes sense within COVID times anyway. In return, the HOA will drop their claim and leave me alone. I haven't heard about them again, so I guess I'm fine. Thanks for everyone's good advice. I'm glad OP stood his ground because this HOA kind of sucks. Mental health is important, and then they're thinking they're just all drug addicts. I mean, wow, this is a huge reach. Thanks, Mr. HOA President. They need to be shutting up on this one. Seriously, man. What a way to stereotype and discriminate. Jeez. This HOA story is called Help Navigating a Special Assessment, posted by JNash85. I live in a condo, and our HOA is made up of 100 units. I've lived here since 2018. At the time, there was a big deal made about roof repairs. We paid $75 a month in fees, and the HOA is supposed to be responsible for the roof. The only other thing the HOA pays for is lawn maintenance and trash pickup. Back in 2018, they said we had to replace all the roofs and quoted the job around $400,000. This special assessment was voted down and nothing was said again. Last Saturday was the annual meeting, which I was unable to attend. I came home to find some documents taped to my door stating, "Do not pay your July dues." Basically, one person in the neighborhood is calling for a special meeting to remove 2 of the board members who have been on the board since 2018 and then fire the management company. I came home today and I found another document on my door, this time from the management company, stating that this person is spreading false information, possibly committing fraud, and she is being served with a cease and desist order. The management company also stated that there will be a follow-up meeting in the next 60 days to discuss that special assessment. If it were up to me, these 2 board members would be removed, we would get a new management company, and we would rewrite the bylaws to lower our fees and make each homeowner responsible for their own roof. There are now 2 other development phases, and that is how the HOA is ran. The roof repair does not seem logical to me. The management company has terrible Yelp reviews, some of which state that they tried to run the roof repair scam on their subdivisions. The fact of the matter is, I can afford the proposed assessment if it goes through. At the same time, I don't want a target on my back from the current board members if the vote to remove them goes south. Any advice on how to proceed? Update. Thanks for the replies. To clarify, these are single-floor condos, basically 4 condos in each unit. I do see the problems with everyone being individually responsible for the roofs, and I feel like the fees are pretty low. Honestly, it seems like a lose-lose situation. Even if the roofs do need to be replaced, there's been a lack of transparency around the entire process. On the other hand, even with all of the due diligence done, I still see it getting voted down by the majority of the owners. Most are elderly and probably can't afford it. Advice in the comments says it's not really possible to make each unit in a condo building responsible for their own roof or other common elements. That said, if the management company is pulling a scam and the board is in on it, you should be talking to a lawyer and having experts review the documents. You have a process to remove board members. Follow it. Pay your dues. Always. Yeah, man, if you're being taken advantage of, you totally have the right to vote in and get these people out of here. Yeah, I mean, each person responsible for their own roof, that's cool with me. I know there's probably downsides to it too, but the point is, if people are taking advantage of you and the other members of the HOA, you lawyer up and you take them down, and that should do the job, I hope, right? I at least hope it would. Am I the butthole for calling the HOA on the neighbors for installing a 25-foot tall bouncy castle and water slide in their backyard? I never thought I would be in this position, but I'm the one who sought out the 75-year-old members of the HOA board for assistance. Having said that, I feel like I was very patient and accommodating, but I just got pushed too far. But still, anytime you call the HOA, you may be the butthole. So my neighbors started out in February and March with a bouncy castle in their yard. I could not see it, but I could certainly hear it when the kids would start bouncing by 4:30 and 5 a.m. It honestly seemed that the kids would wake up really early and the parents would just send them outside so that they could sleep more. But it was incredibly loud. I had a polite conversation with the parents and they assured me that that bouncy castle was temporary. I put up with it for probably like 3 weeks, nearly every single day, until I explained that I work nights and I was being woken up right as I was getting to sleep. So to their credit, they stopped jumping early in the morning and everything was fine, until about 3 weeks ago, when a huge bouncy castle suddenly appeared in their backyard. It was at least 25 feet tall. It completely blocked my view of the mountains so that I could see the kids were able to look right into my bedroom window from the top too. Unfortunately, this coincided with a shift change for me, and now the kids were up until 11 or 12, even 1 a.m. on some nights, and now I had to wake up at 4:30. I didn't even realize it was also a water slide until I realized that probably hundreds of gallons of water had run under our shared fence and actually pushed all my dog's poop up against the back door. I went over and I talked to them, and the dad essentially said, "Oh, we were polite enough to change our schedule for you the first time, and this is our backyard. Screw you." I decided something had to be done because potentially my house could be damaged, let alone the sleep issue. So I called the HOA, and however the machine works, my neighbor had been called in front of the board meeting, fined about $1,000 for covenant violations, as well as being ordered to pay for damages to our joint fence. I thought everything was good, except for some dirty looks from the neighbor, but literally every one of my family and friends are saying I'm the butt for going to the HOA. While opinions do vary, the general gist is now I'm the crabby neighbor ruining kids' fun. Then I should have got some noise-canceling headphones and ignored it, and they would have popped the slide at some point anyways, and it would have taken care of itself. The idea, I guess, is that I tattled and got my way by unleashing a bunch of busybodies with too much free time and too much undeserved power. Commenter Fortune-Telling Boobs says, "Not the butt. I don't typically side with snitches, but this is pretty clear. The early hour noise and the damage to the property are big no-nos. Yeah, dude, you are completely fine. I'd never take up for HOAs in the stories that we read, but honestly, you just use them as a vessel to get your neighbors back. If you gotta sleep, man. I'm a dad. I got kids. Yeah, I get how it is. But your sleep, they are violating those noisy hours. I'd report them. I would. I don't care because they're damaging your property too. No sleep, damaged property, it's gonna make me pretty grumpy. I don't know. Would it make you grumpy? It would me. I sued the HOA president for fining us, but his HOA isn't even real. You gotta hear the crazy fallout in this story, so click it on your screen and I'll see you there.